Good evening, UK. Good afternoon, US. Hope everyone's all right. And tonight I am going to be speaking to Jill Shelley. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Jacqueline?
I'm fine. It's raining here. But it's night time, so it's fine. Got to make the most of it when it's like blue skies, which was yesterday and weekend, so
Yeah.
it's all a bonus. Oh, I've covered the bird up so it doesn't make a noise, and he's still doing it. Apologies about that.
Yeah. I had to put my cat out, so hopefully he won't bother us either.
Yeah, well, he has been doing it while I've been doing live, so I thought, right, if I cover him up, everything will be fine. But yeah, it started already. Apologies. Oh, that didn't work. Okay. So, where did paranormal start for you? When was your first experience of anything which you either didn't understand or something like that?
Well, I was always kind of fascinated by ghosts and things like that, even as a really young kid. I would just like to sit and read ghost stories, and our cousins would tell stories in the dark. So it's just always ever really kind of drawn to that kind of thing. But probably when I was at my grandmother's house would be like my first experience that I had. She had a room upstairs that none of us kids liked. We called it the north room just because it faced the north, but it was always really cold and uninviting. Like if you did go in there, you kind of felt like something was staring at you through the closet, like
No.
didn't want you there. We never really brought it up to anybody else in the family, just us cousins kind of knew, talked amongst
Yeah.
ourselves about it. Um, but I do remember one particular night I was sleeping there and I was in a room that was, down the hall, which when I say down the hall, really it's like three steps and you're there.
Okay.
My parents were in the other room and I could hear them snoring. But I woke up in the middle of the night to hear like these footsteps coming out, like almost like boots or, heavy shoes coming out. And it stopped in front of the door, but I was too chicken to turn and look at it. So like my back was towards the door and I was almost like, oh, and because I'm a kid, I don't know. This is kind of scary, but you could
Wow.
kind of feel like it just like burning through you, almost like with like these, like if you've seen a movie like X-ray vision eyes, that's almost like I felt like it was looking through me. You could almost feel the heat, and then it just kind of you heard this, and then it turned around and it walked back into the room. I heard the footsteps, and I just threw the blankets over my head, waited till morning. So that was like my first true experience, and I remember mentioning it to well, first we were all having breakfast, and I asked my parents, I'm like, "Hey, did anybody get up in the middle of the night?" They're like, "Nope, we didn't get up." My grandma, her bedroom's downstairs, so she would have never been upstairs at all. And I told her what happened, and she's like, "Oh gosh, honey, that's just a ghost. He won't hurt you." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, grandma, here, grandma is like, whatever, it's just a ghost." So then I was really kind of hooked at that point. Like now
Wow.
I want to know everything I can know. Now I got to know. So that kind of got me started in the direction of where I am headed down and things I am doing today.
Yeah, it gets you, doesn't it?
It does.
And and once you're there, you just can't get enough of it. I've just spent so much money, you do, don't you, on like equipment or traveling or locations, things like that. You
Yeah.
just want to experience more all the time.
Oh,
It,
definitely.
oh my gosh, why did I get into this? But I met so many amazing people along the route, like people I've chatted to, and yeah, and to hear people's stories as well.
Oh yeah, it's no matter where you go, somebody's got a story. And it's not even if you're just talking amongst other paranormal people. It's kind of funny when you're just out in the general population. If you bring up, "Hey, I do paranormal investigating," they're like, they look around, like, "Okay, I gotta tell you this story." So it is kind of fun to hear everybody's experiences and different stories too, because it's just so fascinating that they're all so different. And yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, and when you get to say somebody like you sort of say something, and they go, "Yeah, I experienced that as well,"
Yeah.
and you kind of think like, "This is really weird, what's happened?" And then somebody else has gone, "Yeah, I've done that," and it's like, "Yeah,"
Yeah.
So it's cool. Like I had glitter above a Ouija board once, so I was in a room and there's all this beautiful glitter, and it's just resting above it and sparkling everywhere.
Yeah.
And I thought, "What the hell am I saying?" So I blinked my eyes because I thought, "Really?" And yeah, I was actually seeing it, and it's just such an amazing sight. I
Hmm.
guess it was just kind of the energy above it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you're in a team then. How long did you have the team for?
Well, we're still together. Our
That's cool.
yeah, our team formed in 2010, so about 12 years ago. Like I said, I always fascinated by it, but then you always kind of read books and studied and watched shows, and then with the advent of all the paranormal ghost hunting shows, you're like, wait a minute, I can do this? Like this is something I can do? Seriously? So
Yeah.
then that just kind of put that out there. So I ended up meeting so a couple groups of people with the same passion for the paranormal, and we decided to form a team. Um, the first guy that was with us, we actually worked together, and we used to just talk scary movies because we both had the love of scary movies, but we never
Yeah.
we were both into ghosts, so we would compare movies all the time. And then we started talking about ghosts, and he's like, "Well, I'm trying to get a team going," and I'm like, "Well, let's do it." So that's kind of how we formed with that, and we started out with basically like I think one voice recorder, a camcorder, and just like two or three things, and we have grown into multitudes of cameras and equipment, and
Yeah.
we can't even fit it all in the van anymore. We just have way too much
Yeah.
stuff.
But do you find you take equipment out with you? You don't actually use it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You
Like
just,
you
you've got all these bags, you take all the time, checking the batteries, everything. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, I don't need that.
oh
You're
yeah.
just having too much fun anyway.
I know. I told Teresa, one of our good investigators, I said, "Hey, I think on some of these trips we need to kind of consolidate on what we're bringing." And she's like, I don't know how to do that." So
Yeah.
I got to bring everything because what if I get there and go, "Ugh, I left it at home and I really want it now." So she's like, "I got to
Exactly.
bring
You really don't know what you need, do you? And you
no."
don't want to go somewhere and not take it.
Right, right, because we have different things. We use a lot of prop items too, sometimes with the period of what we're
That's
doing.
brilliant.
So we've done crazy things like we've dressed up as nuns before, when we've done rectories. We've done in a church. We've actually dressed as a nun, and I actually got a really good spirit box, a response from I'm going to assume a priest, but he said, "Are you Catholic?" So I thought
Wow.
that was pretty cool to hear. We've
Yeah.
done dressed as doctors and nurses, and yeah, it's just been kind of fun.
Oh, that's brilliant. That adds to the energy levels of the team as well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it does. I think
Like, you're
yeah.
so excited to go anyway, but when you're doing fancy dress,
Oh
it
yeah, yeah. We have a pretty good energy. Each of us kind of brings our own thing to the table. Now, none of us
yeah,
are like psychic or anything like that, but I think we just pull together good energy. Like I can kind of feel when things are around us, or I kind of have an intuitive of let's go to this room. So
yeah.
that's kind of like my little thing. And Teresa, we call her the paranormal punching bag because unfortunately she's the one who always gets scratched or pushed or something. So they're all, for some reason, drawn to her in a negative way, unfortunately. So she gets a lot of that. Donna, she sometimes can see spirits. Um,
Wow,
so not all the time, but sometimes she'll be like, "Yeah, there was a little girl in here last night. Like she just showed herself while I was trying to sleep." So,
that's
uh,
brilliant.
but yeah, she did not all the time, but it is pretty cool when she can. Wish I had that gift. I still, to this day, have not seen like a full blown body apparition, and I've been doing this what like 12 years. As
Wow,
far as you want
yeah,
to say investigating, the only thing I ever came close to was almost like a shadow apparition that we were actually in a bar, and we actually caught it on film, so it was pretty cool. But there was this we were up in the upstairs, and it got really ice cold at that time. Like all of a sudden you got the goosebumps, the whole temperature just dropped, the atmosphere you could feel change. And I was like, "Hey, Krista, did you just notice this got really cold in here?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, let's run a spirit box." So as I was getting that ready, we happened to look, and we were up on a second floor, and this is about 3 or 4 in the morning, so there's not people outside. But we were up on the second floor. We saw this black shadow mask go across the whole window area, whole
wow,
bay window, and it was like a solid mass, almost like you would say like a cloaked person,
Wow. Yeah.
but you could tell, it was a person, and it moved really like almost strobe motiony, but super fast, real jerky. It was weird. I can't even explain it. It was just like, but super fast. And we just looked at each other. I'm like, did you just see that? And she's like, yeah, I did just see that.
Okay.
And then luckily we caught that on film too. So that was pretty cool. But
Wow, catching it on film's awesome.
yeah, that's the only time I've ever actually seen, something myself personally.
Yeah.
So I'm still
Yeah.
looking for that full blown apparition. That's gonna be my gold right there.
I wonder if only certain people can see it. Like I know like if you're sort of medium people can see them, but apparitions, can everyone have the ability to see them if they do show themselves? I do
Well,
kind of wonder.
yeah, I think they have. I think they also have to want you to see them in a way too, because I feel like that everything they do takes a lot of energy, and to manifest
Yeah, that's right.
and show themselves in full living color, almost as you would say,
Yeah.
you have to take a tremendous amount of energy. So for some reason, I'm sure that spirit wanted you to see it. Um, so
Yeah. That
hopefully someday somebody will show me that.
Yeah, we've really got to hope, haven't we? The thing I've seen, I was at a stage at a sort of auditorium area, and there's this dark mass appeared on stage, just a shadow. And it just got darker and darker, and then it sort of got a form to it, and it got a face on it. And I looked at the woman next door to me, and she saw the face as well, and I screamed because you kind of weren't expecting it, but it wasn't nice to look at either.
Right.
It's quite horrific. So yeah, it's like yeah, I don't class that as an apparition, but that's the nearest I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't forget though, do you?
No, no, I still
Mm.
can almost replay that in my head just as if it happened today, you know?
Yeah,
So we can hopefully have another one of those experiences sometime soon. My husband, who is not into the paranormal. I mean, he likes to watch the things I do,
yeah,
and he finds it really interesting, and I've opened his eyes to a lot of things. He was
yeah.
kind of, I wouldn't say a non-believer, but he was kind of like it could go either way. And now he's like, oh yeah, totally, there is ghosts. But like I know the first time we'll get into more of the house that I own, but that I brought him there, he had like a lot of electrifying, like he kept feeling like this electricity all over him. He's like, this is just driving me
Oh
crazy.
wow.
And I was like, well, that's them. They're letting you know that they're there. And then but the biggest thing is he actually saw an apparition on the stairwell of the house.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he had come in. He was carrying some stuff in, and he was coming through the front, which we usually don't go through the front, but we needed to come in that way for some reason.
Oh
Um,
God.
and he looked up at the stairwell, and he saw a woman, with long brown hair, and a little bit like wearing something white. And he's like, she was there. And then I looked away, and then she wasn't there. I thought she was you. And he's like, so I don't know. So he was just like, so yeah. Like, oh, sure, you get to see something. I didn't get to see something yet.
Wow. That's kind of annoying. But then at least he knows now that there is something out there.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so at least like when you're going out and you're exploring and investigating, at least he knows and he sort of more understands more what you're doing.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's getting better. I'm trying to teach him a little bit, how to answer questions. But the thing that cracks me up the most is it was just like when we first had the place, and we were doing something. I said, "Hey, I got to go get some. I'll be right back. Why don't you talk to the ghosts while I'm gone, and maybe they'll talk to you." And in the background, we have this REM pod bear. It doesn't make noise, but it blinks if it's
Yeah.
disturbance has gone off with the electromagnetic field. It is sitting there blinking in the background. He's totally oblivious that this is going on. He just goes, I just don't know what to say to you people. And he just keeps staring off into space. But he's come a long way now. He's learning to ask questions. And yeah, so I'm making a little investigator out of him.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, it is quite strange, when you think about what we do. We'll just go in a room, we'll sit there and we're just talking and asking questions of
Yeah.
thin air. But
I know people say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you do that. It's got to be terrifying." And I'm like, "Well, honestly, no, really, you're just talking to yourself in the dark a lot and just hoping you get
Yeah,
some sort of response." But we do try to connect, even anytime we investigate with, we'll do a lot of research on the place that we're going. We really right now don't no longer do private residence, but we'll do businesses and well known haunted locations.
yeah,
So we'll take on the research and kind of know and kind of get a feel for what type of approach that we need to feel at a certain building, whether it be like we need to dress up a certain way, do we have to ask certain questions, where's kind of the hot spots. So we kind of like to answer, get a little bit more, personal questions with the spirits. We kind of like to know more about them personally. Uh,
yeah,
we kind of feel like for most of the time, we pretty much know how you died and what happened to you. And we feel like you don't really want to talk about that. So we like to talk about like what was your favorite color, your favorite food, when's your birthday? We just ask the crazy weird questions like that.
yeah. I did that. I've done some investigations with a lady called MJ Dixon, and she sort of says questions like that because the thing is, they always get the same questions, don't they?
They do.
And it's nice to speak to them as like a person in a way,
Hmm.
rather than just come out with the same question, which yeah, I do as well.
Yeah.
And I never know what to call them either.
Yeah. We
How
had,
do you how do you address them?
I usually, well, if you know their name,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
or if you say, well, I don't know your name, can you tell me what your name? Or sometimes I'll get like a name in my head and I'll just kind of go with that. Uh,
yeah.
we had a really weird thing. We had a a weird doll that somebody was giving away on Facebook. They weren't saying it was evil. Well, first she was selling it for like $15, and my friend's like, yeah, she only wanted her because she's kind of creepy looking. Never
Yeah.
said anything about ghosts or anything. So then she like, okay, $5, and she's like, whatever. So then the lady's like, look, if you just come and get her, I'll give her to you for free. She's like,
Oh, wow.
I got to keep her in the closet because like my husband's like freaked out by this doll, but I had it.
Nice
Yep.
one.
And so she went and got this doll, and then just because of the stories was just that it was belonged to the lady and her sister. Like they collected them all their life, and her sister is now dead, passed away.
Okay.
And we were just kind of driving, and I was like, well, we should name that doll. That we were taking it down to the house, and I'm like, well, what should we name it? And I said, just random, just shot out of my head. I said Ethel. Like,
Yeah.
why would I say Ethel? That's kind of an oddball name,
Yeah.
And my other friend Donna, then she's like, no, we should call her Mary. And I'm like, nah, I like Ethel. I think it should be Ethel. She's like,
Yeah.
oh, I think Mary's better. So now we're arguing about the names. And I said,
Wow.
Teresa, why don't you hit that lady up and see what her sister's name was or what her sister had it named? And then we'll, in honor of her sister, we'll keep the name. And she said, well, my sister never had a name for the doll, but her name was Mary Ethel.
Oh my God.
And I was like, we all were just like, oh my God, if I hadn't been driving, I probably would have slammed on the brakes because it was like, I cannot believe we just pulled that lady's name out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird. So I don't know if that doll has any powers or anything, but it was just, that was
Yeah, it's interesting. I've
a weird
sort
thing.
of sort of work with objects, and yeah, they do carry energy. So yeah, it's brilliant how you've like picked up that name.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's what we call her now, Mary Ethel. She's there.
that is
Whether
brilliant for
she's
both of
really
you.
there or not, I don't know. But yeah, the sister's like, if you ever have any questions, just hit me up. I'll answer them for you. So yeah, we should probably do a spirit session with her or something. We haven't done that yet.
That's cool. So, what is now your favorite piece of equipment?
For me, I absolutely love the spirit box, and I have every version of the spirit box, the portal, the S box, the S11. You name
Awesome.
it. I pretty much have them. I love the science behind it,
Yeah,
basically because you can't talk in 1/100th of a second. And we ourselves, when we do it, we use the AM station. So that's the only thing scanning through. So there's less
yeah,
music. It's mostly talk, but it goes so quick you can't hear the stations talking. So if I hear a yes or a no, I'm not as so keen on that. But
Yeah.
I've gotten like full blown sentences. I've gotten swear words,
Wow.
which we know would never be on the radio. Uh,
That's true.
we've gotten in direct response to our questions. It's just insane and crazy. But one of my favorite points that I like to make with about the spirit box is we were investigating a home. It was built back in the 1800s. It actually belonged to a riverboat captain down in Stillwater called Captain Jenks, and he basically was just kind of, got people up and down the river safely. Very well respected businessman in town. This family moved into the house. They were having a lot of paranormal activity. Nothing ever happened with the dad, and he was like convinced that his family's going nuts. And this man was very smart. Like when he gave me his business card, he had so many PhDs and all kinds of letters by I don't even know what, but he was very smart man, you know. Um, so he was totally like, nope, ghosts don't exist. And I explained how the spirit box worked, and
Yeah.
he understood. Okay, yeah, that
Yeah.
totally makes sense. So I said, well, so we start running the spirit box, and I said, whose house is this? And plain as day, it said Captain Jenks, and he like was a believer right after that.
Oh wow. It is amazing what you can get, isn't it?
Oh
But
yeah.
it's also about knowing how your equipment works as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. A lot of times I don't even hear the response on the spirit box until I get home and review it on a camera. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really clear, and I'm like, oh, and then I can continue to have a conversation. Um, but a lot of times it's not till I get home, because sometimes I'll put the headphones on then, and then I can really really listen. We actually have been doing a lot more now with the Estes method. I don't know if
I
people
love that.
familiar
Yeah.
with that, where I've actually been having really good conversations. Teresa, for some reason, is almost, besides being the punching bag, for some reason is the only one who can seem to bring this through. So we've all tried doing the headphones and listening, and we get maybe a word here or there. With her, we can have complete conversations, like going on and back and forth about different things, and it's just insane. So it's like we just like, here, you just do it, because she doesn't understand, or she's like in her head, she's like, I wonder why they're saying this, like what's going on. We had was a fun one. We were actually at an old house that we had gone to, used to be an old hospital. And we
Oh
were doing
wow.
the Estes method, and she was saying stuff like, my name is Virgil. My mom is here. She's sick. This is a hospital. Don't you know that? So he just kind of confirming things. Then we had gone upstairs with a spirit who doesn't really like to interact with anybody. And we were doing the Estes method up there. And they were telling us to leave and get out. We were real persistent. We're like, well, hey, we want to get to know you. And they're like, well, it's nighttime, isn't it? And I said, yeah, it's like around midnight. And they're like, no, it's not. And I go, it's not. And I go, no, it's 12:33. And we looked at the clock. It was 12:33. So they told us the exact time. So she doesn't even know what's going on. She's telling us the exact time. Then she's just like, well, it's time for prayer. And I'm like, oh, do you want us to pray? Yeah. Well, what do you want us to say? The Our Father. So we prayed the Our Father. And then, as we were doing it, they're like, good, great, keep it going, love it, the whole time. She can't hear us. She's blindfolded, had the Bose headphones,
Yeah.
she can't hear nothing. So we're doing the prayer, get all done. And then they're like, say it again. And we're like, so then, we're like saying it really fast. And she goes, say it slower. So it's like, it was so crazy to have these conversations. It's just
Wow.
amazing. So
That
we
is
just love
brilliant.
doing that Estes session with Teresa.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, there's something going off in chat. I hope everyone's all right. But so you've done loads of locations, obviously. What sort of location is your favourite? Like a hospital or
uh,
asylum or
I,
prison or
I like a lot of different things, but obviously, who doesn't like a big old sanitarium?
yeah, I know.
So
Have you been to the big one?
yeah, I've been to Waverly. We've
Wow.
done Waverly. That was fun. I wouldn't say we got a lot of evidence while we were there personally. Like you would get feels that something was around. Um,
Yeah.
I would get, sometimes K2 hits, and obviously there's no electricity around. We did capture on film, though. We did get the REM pods going off in different hallways because we did set up cameras. We did in the death shoot. I got a little brave, and Donna sat on the top, and she's got bad knees, so it's a really steep downward. So I went part way down, and it's pitch black, like you can't see anything. And all of a sudden, I could hear like footsteps walking up towards me, and I'm like telling Donna at the time, like, I don't like this. I don't like this. This is too dark. I can't see what's going on. And so then I got chicken, and I went out and sat
Oh wow.
upstairs with her. Just because I just had this vision of something coming out of complete blackness. Maybe I watched too many horror films. I don't know, but it was freaking me out. So I just wanted to at least be the safety with my partner. So, but yeah, it was a really good time. We've done the Fergus Falls Asylum, which is here in Minnesota. It is
Okay.
not open to the public. They let just a very few select paranormal groups in.
Wow.
We were one of those.
Brilliant.
I think maybe 3 people have gone, and then now they don't let anybody in for that. But that was just so amazing to be in. Just from part of paranormal investigating is just being in a building
Yeah, that's right.
history. Like I can, even though I can stand in this room and see mold everywhere, I could just look at these pillars and go, this was the place to be back in the day.
Wow.
So I just envision that. But we had so much fun just going around the asylum. They had underground tunnels, and we were just like getting lost everywhere, and certain doors were locked, and you'd have to turn around and go back. It was like a labyrinth in there. It was just crazy, but just so much fun. The weirdest thing we had there, we did get equipment interaction, but the weirdest thing is we had like weird walkie-talkie interaction,
Right.
which is so weird because this asylum is kind of, I mean, it's in a town, but far away enough. And it was like
Okay, yeah.
2 in the morning, and we were getting little children talking on the walkie-talkie. So
Oh
that was
wow.
awfully weird at
Yeah.
2 in the morning to be getting that. But they're like saying, Papa, I love you. And they were saying all kinds of stuff.
Oh
It
wow.
was just insane. It was just crazy. And then sometimes like the walkies weren't working. Like I could hear Steve say, Jill, are you hearing this? But I would never hear the children talking to him. But on film footage, I could because he had his own camera. It was picking it up. But I wasn't hearing it on my floor through my talkie. It was just this, and this just went on for like, and I think he didn't give a name, but he said, how old are you? And I think he said like 4. It was just crazy. It was just the weirdest interaction. And they did have children at that asylum way back in the day. So they
Oh
had
wow. So
even
sad.
deaths at that place. So yeah, we got some EVPs, equipment interaction, but I think the weirdest thing was that walkie-talkie. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been to an asylum. It must be awesome. There's one in the UK which is known in Liverpool, which a lot go to, but it it must be like, oh, it must really hurt you when you walk in. Like if you pick up the emotion and things like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's definitely overwhelming.
Yeah.
We've done one too at the they don't have it anymore, but there was one in Illinois, Peoria Asylum, which is the old Barton.
Oh yeah.
That was a really cool place to go. I'm so sad it got torn down. It was a great building. We got a lot of interaction. One of our Alex brought his cousin just so we had extra people that day. She was carrying a parabolic microphone around, and it got ripped out of her hands and thrown on the floor. So
Wow.
that was like crazy. And we had like they kept hearing footsteps and things following them around. And then we had like our millimeter. I just set it in the middle of the hall, and I just stepped away from it, and then I was talking, and then that started going off. And
Wow.
just some of the spirit box, and I can't I apologize because it was a while ago off the top of my head, but I do remember a lot of the spirit box questions coming through had to relate to the hospital. It was like, give them a syringe, doctor, things like that was coming
Oh my gosh.
when we were like in.
Oh, that gives me a chill, that does.
So yeah, it was super
Wow.
cool. And then I think too the other asylum that we did, because they're so much fun, is the Bartonville, or not Bartonville, sorry, the Randolph County Infirmary. We went there, and actually everybody couldn't come on the trip, so it's just me and Teresa. So just this two girls alone in this ginormous asylum. Like when we pulled up, I'm like, oh, I didn't think it was
Wow.
big. So we were there by ourselves, but she had saw a shadow figure right away down in the basement while we were setting up a camera. But what was interesting later is we got so the asylum had burned twice. It burnt, and they rebuilt it twice. And we got an EVP in the basement, like class A, like you didn't have to clean it up, that just said,
Wow.
the building's on fire, don't you know? So it's
Oh,
like,
Christ.
and it made me think, it's like, okay, is this guy reliving this every single day? And is he like
Yeah.
the building on fire, and he sees these two girls and he's got to get us out and warn us, which we didn't hear. And then the other one, which was really, I'm really sad we missed this one. We were like walking down the second floor, and later on our voice recorder had heard a woman say, well, hello, girls, come on in, pleased to meet you. So it's like this
Oh,
class A EVP, and I was like, oh, this lady wanted us to stop, and we didn't even.
oh my gosh. Oh, that's
Uh,
gutting, isn't it?
yeah, so we got that, and then we did catch actually another shadow on our camcorder. So we were standing at like an intersection of so you could go this way, that way. So there's 3 different halls, and so I'm kind of panning back and forth, like, which way do you guys want to go? And then as I came
Wow.
across one this way, coming through the doorway, you saw like a black shadow peek out, go back in, and then run across really fast to the other side. And I was like, oh my God, we didn't see it at the time, but when I played, I'm like, no, it's just right down the hall from us. Just,
Oh my gosh.
it's just us. So
Wow.
that was really cool to catch. But yeah, I love doing the asylums. They're so much fun. There's just always so much history. There's different things. Like you said, a lot of emotions. I've connected with
Oh gosh.
children at some of the places. I've gotten really good
I'm
eating.
quite shocked by that with the asylums.
Well, a lot of
Never
times they
thought
had,
about that.
yeah, they would either sometimes even the pregnant mothers they would put there. A lot of
Oh,
times, if you just didn't want your child, you would just say, "Oh, they're crazy," and that's how easy it
um,
was to put person in asylum. Even if if your wife cheated, you could put her in asylum for that. So there were just people would lie just sometimes to get rid of family members. So that's how a lot of children ended up in a lot of these poor farms, and where they had to work on the farms, or the asylums. Because I've been to both poor farms, asylums. A lot of them have been used for both situations. So we do get quite a bit of children interaction there, which it's sad. But we try to make, when we're there, we like to play with the kids. I'm not opposed to, getting up, dancing and singing and playing and rolling balls and jumping rope. so,
oh wow.
so we do what we can. So we make them happy, and hopefully we get a lot of interaction with them as well.
Yeah, that's it. You've got good energy, and that always helps as well.
Yeah,
And
I'm a
I've
firm
heard
believer in that.
yeah, I've heard people say that, like, people don't get interaction everywhere they go, but I do. And I bet you do because 'cause you've got good energy.
Yeah, I feel like I
And
do have quite a few experiences.
yeah,
Just in general day-to-day things, not just, when I'm out investigating or anything. It's just weird things sometimes will happen, and I'll just be like, "Huh." Yeah,
it's brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah, I kind of have things happen in my house or, like, things will just fall or something right in front of me or think, "Yeah, whatever."
yeah. I haven't had too much happen here at this house. I think we moved in like 4 years ago. I did have, like, after my dad died, I had stuff like the remote would keep turning off the TV off, and he was a big TV buff, and I think
Oh,
that might have been
wow,
his
that's
way.
lovely.
At first I was like, "Oh," and then I turned it on, and then finally I was just like, because I just always called him Nick. I'm like, "Nick, stop it. That's enough now. I'm trying to watch." And then it
Oh,
was
bless
it.
you.
So yeah, it happened a couple times. So that was right after he died shortly. So I don't know if that was his way of saying, "Hey, I'm still here." So that was kind of different. And then I think one time
Oh,
I was out in the garage, and I was just sitting on the step, and we have a picture, but they have like the little black plastic, it was like a chibi frame. So they fall off all the time. But this particular one fell off, hovered in the air for a second, and then it shot down like an arrow towards
wow.
down the bottom of the steps. And I thought, and that was one of those moments, because I'm like, I think it would have just fell straight down and then bounced down the stairs. It wouldn't have sat there and then went that way. I don't really know what that's all about. So,
Gosh.
so yeah,
It
that's about it. Every once in a while, I'll hear a voice too, and I'll be like, "Huh, oh, must be somebody outside." That's why I always say, "Must be somebody outside."
yeah. Oh, wow. So you were investigating for a while and then you went and purchased your own haunted house.
I
How
did.
cool is that?
It is
That
super
is just too
cool.
cool.
It is very cool. Except I forgot how much work it is. Yeah, I have to mow the lawn and stuff. I didn't realize that.
Gosh, yeah, of course you have, yeah.
But yeah, just doing all the traveling that my team has done kind of got me the idea. This would be super cool if I had my own place and I could go whenever I wanted. You could build more of a relationship with the spirits because when we go places, we get it for only 10, 12 hours. And then, you got to, that's pretty much unless you come back, it's pretty much the relationship you're going to form. So I thought this would be a great way to do that. So I think it was like 2018. Financially, I was able to go ahead and pursue that dream and purchase
Wow.
my own haunted location. So, um, and trying to find a haunted place is not easy. Nobody's really advertising, come by my
That's
haunted house,
right.
you know. So I kind of just did my own thing where I would go by I would look at pictures that are of on the listings and just be like, get a feel. And if I got a feel for it, I would go take a look at it. And then my realtor knew that what I was doing, so I would be doing these mini investigations. So we looked at several places, but when I came across the Boyd house, I was really, really drawn to it, almost to the point of where I just kept looking at the pictures all the time before I went. Like I just kind of almost became obsessed with the house in a way.
Interesting.
But then when we got there, so our realtor was late, so we're sitting outside with Donna, and I was like eating a sandwich, and I'm like, hey, just all casual, like, you ever get to feel like someone's looking at you from that attic up there? And she kind of do. Kind of had this look about like somebody was like staring, at you,
Wow.
energy. So we went in, we did investigation. One of our REM pods went off with 8 minutes of being there.
Gosh.
And then we had a couple spirit box responses, nothing major. One was like, who are you? So I feel like that was like a weird or a respectable question because she doesn't know who I am. Nobody's ever talked to him before. So this is all new. And so I just kind of had a feel. And I was like, okay, well, let's see. Let me just check. There's a psychic medium that I really trust. And I said, what are your thoughts on this house? So she just looked at the pictures and she's like, oh yeah, there's 6 spirits there.
Wow.
Couple kids, couple women, a man, and as I've been there, a lot of this has come true. But interesting enough, she said the first night you stay there, you're gonna hear the man coming in from the back door. He likes to garden. And I'm like, okay, now if you think of that statement, she said the first night you're gonna stay there. I hadn't made an offer on this house yet. I had
Oh, okay.
I hadn't decided to buy it yet. So it was interesting that the way she had phrased it, and
Yeah.
did have an interaction with him. So then I thought, well, I'm going to just ask the owners. Here we go. Let's see if they think I'm this nutsy, crazy person buying their house. But they did. They didn't really want to talk about it at first. They were real standoffish about it, but they were like, yeah, I always thought that house was really funny. And then it's a very, very small town. So I've met some of the kids that grew up in the house, and they told me stories of, oh, yeah, we seen a man sitting in a chair one time.
Wow.
We just always weird things. And then people like, hey, when I stayed over, at their house, when I saw them grab my arm, so we're hearing stories of things coming forward now. So it's always had activity. It's just nobody's ever really talked to them. And so now I think with the years of me investigating and other people coming and investigating, they're really mastering a lot of that paranormal equipment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so we're getting a lot more interaction. Plus, we also we have like a lot of antiques. So pretty much when I bought the house, I re-put it back into the 1900s condition. So the house itself was built in 1901, but our deed goes back to 1884. But I wanted to put
Wow.
the house back into the Victorian ages. So we put up all the old Victorian wallpaper. We did all the antique furniture we could find for that time period. And we actually found stuff now that belongs to the family that used to live there. So we brought some of
Brilliant.
that stuff back in. So we have that, and then we have a lot of items that we've purchased that are supposedly haunted. I can't say they're not.
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
We threw them in there. So
Yeah, I like how you say that. That they may or may not be haunted.
yep, yep. So yeah, there's just a lot of different activity. So originally, the main family that we can find there is Fred and Minnie Eckhart. And they moved into the house in 1912. And he was a very well established businessman in town. So he owned a store where he sold like all the dry goods and the fancy things. He had like shoes and raccoon coats, and they did food, and they were known for their bologna. And so very well respected. His father and him and his brother built the Lutheran church in town. So he was a board member of that. He was also
Wow,
on the fire department and the school board. So a very, very well
gosh.
respected man. He passed away in the house in the 1950s, as well as his wife did. About 3 years
Oh,
apart, they died. They
that's sad.
both died in the house, and Minnie's funeral was held in the home. They had more children, but they had some more that passed away before they moved into that house. But when they moved in the house, two of their children passed away. One in infancy, and one he was, I think, 3 or 4. He had choked to death.
Oh,
So
that's
we
sad.
we get that type of activity. We do also know of a lady in the 70s who's passed away. So we do have some confirmed deaths at the house. Nothing tragic. Everything's
Yeah, that's right.
other than the little boy. Um,
Yeah,
but there could be a lot of stuff tied to the land. Our house was one of the very first houses as you come into town. So it was right on
okay.
the edge of town. So it was a big booming Wild West town back in the day. They had hotels and barbershops and pool yards and granaries and creameries, and now there's pretty much nothing. There's nothing in town anymore. It's pretty much dead. Um,
Wow.
but the edge of town also was on the Sioux Dakota reservation line. So there could have been
Okay.
a lot of history for that. The railroad tracks run pretty much right through the backyard of the house. So that brings in some energy
Yeah,
as well. So we do get quite a bit of that. So there's a lot of different energy. The house being on the edge of town, I'm sure, had seen some sort of action. It was across the street from the livery stable. So I'm sure there's probably some shootouts. Um,
definitely.
I've had a psychic say, people have died of tuberculosis here, but you're not going to find any records of it.
Wow.
Which totally could happen. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, it could. Yeah,
They didn't keep records. I mean, like I said, my deed says 1884, and that's when the land was owned by the railroad. So who knows what was there even before that. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, we're still kind of digging up some of the history and stuff on there, but I
that's
think,
brilliant.
again, doing a lot of the paranormal thing, I think has opened some sort of, I wouldn't want to say beacon, but I think it's just some sort of pathway, because we get a lot of names that
Yeah,
maybe one time and you never hear them again. Um, but then I have names too, like Henry, I get quite often, but I have no deed. Nothing shows up on my deed. I have no Henry. I have no history,
yeah,
but I continue to get the name.
yeah.
So, we're trying to figure out who Henry is now. I'm getting a
So
joy.
it could be with an object. You don't know, do you?
Right, right. So it's just, yeah, and I've had conversations with spirits before. I'll use the REM pod. It's like, hit it for yes, don't touch
Yeah,
it,
that's it.
that kind of thing. And I've had like, oh yeah, I was in a car accident, but I'm just passing by, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
So it's just kind of interesting that we get that. And I don't know, I kind of feel like sometimes too you'll get that if anywhere you're doing something, because you're creating more of an energy.
You
It's
are?
it's I would feel differently if you were like just doing a resident home, because this is not what they do all day. But if you go to these well-known haunted locations, I mean, it is done almost 365 days a year. I mean, you got to be creating some sort of energy, some sort of
That's
drive.
right, yeah.
Right? So, I think you get some. It doesn't mean that they stay there. I think they're just maybe getting their whatever they want to say, their piece out. Um, because I feel there's different dimensions, and not necessarily saying that these people are stuck. They're just cruising on by. They're like, oh, hey, let's
Yeah,
stop in and chit chat for a little while, and then we'll keep on going.
yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at things sometimes.
That's cool. It's like to say that a person has like a beacon above their head sort of thing, like the medium. Then like spirit around will like recognize that they can communicate with them. So like, there's like loads of people, then they'll say, oh, that one, and they'll make a beeline the person who's a medium. And I think with the house doing, that activity, then they're going to go, oh, I'm going to be heard here.
Right.
I'm going to be able to be recognised and say what I want to say.
Right.
And sometimes they just want acknowledgement, don't they, as well?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would be lonely if I was a spirit. I want to be talking to people. I want to tell my story, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Besides,
Yeah,
it
because
would be
you
fun.
could be waving, going, "Hello,"
Yeah.
think then you can go there and, like, people will, like, speak to you, which is brilliant.
Right. Right. Plus, I know how to work the equipment, so
That's right.
they'd be like, "Watch them.
Really.
I can make them run. This will be funny." It's like,
Yeah. That's the thing, like, when things do happen and, we do move on, then we can have a right laugh, can't we?
yeah. Yes, we play a lot of jokes on each other too. Sometimes when we investigate, because you can't be serious all the time.
Oh,
So
no.
yeah, we've done a lot of different jokes on people, like especially done places where I know like they have like a school bell or a bell, like it'll ring through the whole building. Like I'll know, okay, I know they're upstairs and I'll ring the building, or I've done stuff where I've like knocked on the windows. Yeah, so it's just kind of stuff that we mess with. But they do it to me too, like they'll hide behind stuff and jump out. So
You don't have any mannequins in your house, do you?
no, I actually thought about getting some actually. Somebody gave me some period clothing, and I thought, well, rather than hanging in a closet, I'd rather just get a person, a little person to put it on, and then we could make it really spooky and just put them in weird places. So when
Yeah,
people,
I know. You just turn around, it's like people screaming because you
yes,
think, "Oh my gosh," like, you might know where they are, you go to these locations and they're hanging around and, you know where they are, but then, like, you still sit at the corner of your eye and make sure. But yeah, there's some where I was at the weekend, there with Julie Edwards, who's watching. There's, like, the odd mannequin around and they're like, "Oh." And then you look at their eyes and wonder if they're following you as well. But yeah, it's cool. So you hire it out then, sort of most nights?
usually the weekends,
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's
yeah,
it, when people are
tend
available
tend
sort
to
of thing,
be
yeah.
booked up. So I get down there when other people aren't there, usually, and I spend a lot of time doing cleaning. Um,
Yeah,
so I don't um, get to interact with them as much as I would like to, but I always have like a voice recorder running, like even when I get in the house. Because
brilliant.
whenever I walk in, I greet them, hey, I know it's been a while, or it's me. I'll start talking, and it's kind of fun too, because I'll see like other things that other paranormal groups have put up or any experiences that they may have had. So I'll say, hey, when I saw like Joe was here, you were touching that. That's really cool. Thanks for doing that.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Just kind of do things like that. There was one time we actually had nothing running and we were cleaning. Teresa was in the kitchen putting a cart together because we decided we put in a new coffee station for everybody because people like coffee.
Yeah, you
And,
do.
and so she's putting that together in the kitchen, and I'm on the stairwell and I'm like dusting off. We had brought Minnie. We found out that like she likes poinsettia plants. So it was around wintertime, Christmas time. So we had put one up there, and I was
Oh,
looking
wow.
it up, and I audibly heard a woman say something, but I thought it was Teresa, but I didn't respond to her. And then she goes, what did you say? And I said, I thought you said something. She goes, no, you said leave it. So I was asking why you said that.
Wow.
And I'm like, because so she actually heard the word. I just heard two words. I didn't actually audibly hear what she said, but she said, leave it. And I said, no, I was picking up the poinsettia plant. So we think she thought I was going to do something with that
Oh,
plant. And she was like, leave it. Like, I don't take it.
yeah, don't take it away.
So that was pretty interesting. And I think that night the REM pod was just going off like crazy that night too. So
Wow,
yeah.
that sounds cool.
Yeah, I get like stuff too. Like I've gotten like EVPs when I'm just randomly not doing anything. Like I was cleaning everything up in the morning, and I got an EVP of a guy that says, "How are you this morning?" Uh,
Oh, lovely.
so they really interact a lot with what is going on at the house. We've gotten EVPs. We were having inappropriate dinner conversation one night for, if you were in the 1900s, you wouldn't be talking about this type of conversation. And we got an EVP that says, you're not very proper, are you? Um, so So, they are watching and they are listening to what we're doing.
Oh, wow.
We've even gone as far as playing certain music for them. So they love music, love listening to
Wow.
music. So we have an old Victrola. So we play a lot of that. But being as they died in the 50s, I'm like, well, I know they didn't listen to just the 1900s. So we were playing some country stuff, old school country. And it seemed like they were lighting up between the K2 and the REM pod with the beat of the music.
Oh,
Like that.
lovely.
And then we'd be like, well, okay, we played just some Johnny Cash. Now do you want to hear? And then we would say somebody and they
I
went,
was brought up with Johnny Cash,
yeah.
yeah.
And then we're like, how about Merle Haggard and the whole thing, the K2 and the REM pod's like, so we're like, all right, here's the Merle Haggard. So, so we do that. They seem to really like Frank Sinatra too. So we play a lot of Frank Sinatra. So yeah, it's just kind of fun. Just the interaction that they give. One of my favorite things I did was I played poker downstairs in the basement. And that night on the table, the REM pod had been going crazy on the table. And I would just come and shuffle, and just pretend like just throw out, poker lingo, 5 cards are high, this is wild, whatever. But and I had these old gold coins too from the 1900s, and I put that on the table. I'm like, this is the grand prize, if you win the hand. But I had one card the whole time that I put to the edge of the table, never hanging over, just right on the edge. And I always said, push this card off if you've enjoyed tonight's activities, the games that we've been playing.
Yeah.
And this went on, for most of the night. And then when I went to bed, it was like 11:45. So I came down there and I said, okay, good night. Just really wish you'd push that card off if you had fun tonight. And at midnight, that card flew off that table.
Wow.
And I caught it on film. I was so excited though when I came downstairs that in the morning and I saw that card laying on the table. I literally was jumping up and down. I'm like, oh, you threw the card.
Well, that is so cool.
Like,
Yeah.
thanks. And I was like, hey, it's an 8, it's whatever, whatever it was. If you
Yeah.
guys wanted to know. So
Oh,
but yeah, it was just the interaction that they do is just so much fun, and like I said, I think because I come there all the time, they know who I am. They've said my
yeah.
name. I've heard them say my name audibly.
That's lovely.
I've had one person, it was right after we started opening. So this was all new to them to have people come in and I would sit and talk to them like, hey, people are going to come and they're going to talk to you. So please talk to them,
Oh, wow. That's cool.
But so we had a group come in and they turned on their voice recorders and they probably had been there like 5 minutes and they got a Class A EVP that said, where's Jill? So they were probably like, all new, like this is not, who you are, this is not Jill. So it's like, so now I think they're used to it. So I'll prep them a lot too, but I talk to them, all the time, just like I'm having a conversation with you when I'm there. I remember one day I was there, I was the only one in the house and I was just rambling on and I was in one of the bedrooms and I was just, oh, I'm going to a wedding this weekend. You ever been to a wedding? This is going to be, and I was just la da 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 da. Like I kept talking. Later, when I got the or the voice recorder listening to, I wish I was not talking because she said a really long sentence. Because we have a lady, she's got a really kind of crabby voice. She sounds like she smokes a lot of cigarettes, so she kind of
Oh,
like
okay.
this. And she just was mumbling something over me talking, and then she said, "I'm trying to sleep." So here, this poor woman's trying to take a nap, and I'm in there just going on and on about what I'm doing next weekend.
Wow.
So yeah, just a lot of fun stuff. We have good spirits there. Nobody's evil, mean. Fred can get a little cranky when he's had enough, and he's like, I'm done talking to you. You might get a little push, a little scratch. But I've had like my shirt tugged on. People have had like their blankets or messed with when they're sleeping at night, or their feet being played with, or their hair being brushed.
Oh, wow.
You do get some feelings, sometimes some touching and feeling going on in the house as well.
That sounds fantastic. It really does.
Yeah, it's fun. I love it. I just love going there. I just love being there. If I could be there more, I totally would. It would be.
Yeah.
I love
I
hanging
think it's
out.
your energy. I think your energy helps because you speak to them, because you respect them.
Yeah, and we've had people go there too, and they're like, "Well, nothing happened." But if you're like a seasoned investigator, you know that it's not going to happen every single time. It's not like the
That's
movies.
right.
Because I've been to some really well-known haunted locations and we didn't get a darn thing. And,
Yeah.
that's just that particular time of, because they're spirits. If they don't want to talk to you, they don't have to talk to you. They're not performers. And if they don't feel like doing it, they're not going to do it. So,
Yeah. But generally, if you with the right people and the right energy, you
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of do get a lot of sort of hits, don't you know?
Oh,
Even if it's just a K2 flashing,
oh yeah, yeah.
and you've ruled out everything possible,
Yeah,
you
we
know,
kinda noticed that too with our group. We kind of, almost have, like, it's usually me and Donna go together, and then Teresa and Alex usually go together, and we
yeah,
switched it up to where, like, we break it up, and, like, maybe I'll have Alex and, Teresa and Donna go together, and they don't seem to get the same interaction,
yeah,
um, at locations. It's almost like that created energy is what makes it happen, so
yeah. I think it is down to a person's energy.
yeah, totally. We are gonna, we do have a couple trips planned this year, and we are actually doing another sanitarium.
Wow,
So
awesome.
we're gonna do the Indiana State Sanitarium. So we got that coming up in May.
That's
We're
brilliant.
actually gonna split up and go by ourselves. Each take a
Ah,
for like a half an hour, and we've done that once before in an old giant school in Ohio. But yeah, we're gonna try and brave this one because I've seen some
wow,
footage from this place. It's pretty creepy. So we'll see if I make it. I got my
wow.
walkie-talkie though, so I can connect with some.
Yeah, that's it. You've got to be safe, haven't you, really?
You do got to be safe, but I don't think they have any. Again, nothing mean or malevolent type demonic type energy because really that stuff is pretty darn rare to encounter that.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so usually it's going to be, especially in asylum, if anything, it's just going to be somebody who's mentally unstable is probably going to be
Yeah,
something that you're going to have
that's
to deal
right.
with. So, but yeah,
Or even if they've been put in there for no valid reason, they're going to be kind of down anyway, aren't they? To be in that surrounding.
right, right. Because this one was besides being a sanitarium. So first it was a tuberculosis sanitarium, so you had a lot of
Oh,
deaths from there.
no.
Then it became basically a mental health institution, and then it became
Okay.
an old nursing home, and then they intermixed the nursing home with the mental health patients at one point.
Oh, gosh.
So, but there was a lot of reports of abuse and things and deaths,
Mm.
so just a lot your typical sanitarium history. Uh,
Yeah, that's
so
it.
it'll be really cool to just go there and investigate. So we're already kind of planning our how we're going to do things. So we
Wow.
are going to dress up as nurse and doctors for see how that goes.
And a specific era. You're
Uh,
going to choose like an era that you dress up from.
no, because I think the nursing costume is the old fashioned with the hat and the dress
Okay.
and everything. And then the doctor is pretty much the same. It's just kind of the old white coat with stethoscope on. So we just kind of go with that. Just kind of gives you the appearance and things. So it might do some trigger stuff with spirits.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah. I've tried it with music and things. I've never really dressed up.
Yeah,
But yeah, I like it. I really do.
we don't do it often. We did have the old jail outfit, the black and white stripe. So
Lovely.
we put Alex in the prison once for like a 45 minutes. We just threw him in a cell with a camera and said, "Here you go, see what you get." So yeah, we've done that. So we leave Alex alone a lot. He's a brave soul. So we're like, "Hey, just go in this room for like an hour." He's like, "Okay." So we'll do that.
That's brilliant. So, with your house, do you document what you get there? So, if a paranormal team goes in and says they've got that, do you document that?
Yeah, I put up all the evidence that we capture up on our YouTube channel for our
That's
team
cool.
for St. Croix Paranormal. And
Oh,
then
sorry. What is your YouTube channel?
St. Croix Paranormal.
Right. Okay.
And
So I'll make a note of that later on. I'll put the
okay,
link on. Yeah.
and then anything that anybody else captures, I like them, hopefully they'll share with me. I had if you go like on YouTube and just type in Boyd House, you'll find a lot of other things that people have captured, videos that I've put out as well of
Wow.
different things. So we actually have there's a really good shadow figure captured probably back in 2020, I think. so there was a paranormal team that had come out, and they had a camera set towards the kitchen where we hear, I myself hear a lot of banging, things moving around in the kitchen quite often,
Wow.
audible voices in the kitchen. But they had a camera facing that way, and you could actually see two black shadow figures, like we talked about before. One goes like this, and then the other one's right behind it. So it's almost like
Wow.
an adolescent and a smaller child. And just real
Okay.
quick, it goes choo choo. So you just see that really, really quick go by. So that was a really cool piece of evidence that somebody had caught. Otherwise, you get
Mhm.
a lot of different EVPs, a lot of different equipment interaction that people get, or they'll hear things. A lot of people do see shadows. Teresa's actually seen a shadow there. I was on the phone talking to my husband in the kitchen, and she was in the main living room, just kind of digging through her equipment, trying to find something. What else could I play with? Um, so she's just looking, and all of a sudden she looked up and peeking through into the parlor. She said there was like this black head just poking out, and then real quick went back when she looked up, and she starts screaming, "Shadow peeking, shadow peeking." I'm like, "What's going on?" So she's like,
Wow.
and I'm like, "Oh, and I missed that too." So anyway, so yeah, she had seen a shadow. So people do see that, especially like on the stairwell too. A lot of different energy on that stairwell.
Yeah.
We have the old where you can either go one way or the other way. So one leads to the parlor, one leads to the kitchen as far as the stairwell.
Okay.
So it's that split stairwell too. So and we have most of the woodwork in that house is still all the natural woodwork from the original house.
Oh,
So,
brilliant. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, you do get a lot of activity on the stairs, don't you?
Yeah, they do. I don't know what it is about there, but yeah, we've had REM pods go off, all kinds of equipment
Yeah.
go off. People see shadows. I think that's where my husband saw the apparition. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, we've had like a guy, like he felt like when he got to the top, like there was such an energy at the top of the stairs, like he couldn't go forward. And then he felt like somebody grab his arm and like almost like pinch him
Oh,
almost.
wow.
But that's why we figured it was Fred, because he's like, I think he said he had been pushing him all night.
Okay.
Kind of feels like that's who did that, but yeah, like I said, you never know because we have all kinds of crazy stuff in that house.
Oh, that is brilliant. Yeah. So it's booked up, is it? You've got quite a few bookings coming up for it.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit more open now for the summer, surprisingly. I did have a lot of winter specials going on, so that booked up a lot of the weekends. But yeah, if people are definitely interested, um,
Yeah.
we certainly have openings this summer, weekends and things, so they can, just swing by our website, the boydhouse217.com, and then that has our
Right.
calendar, a lot of information too about the house. We have a video up there too of some things captured at the
Oh, that's
house.
fantastic. Yeah. To get your dream like that, but the way you interact with them and you speak to them, and yeah, it's lovely.
Oh yeah, it's fun. Yeah, we always have conversations. I don't know, I feel like the guy was really legit. We were just chit-chatting at a convention, and um he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a psychic medium, and I like to go to places with paranormal teams at different times, and I want to compare, see what we get." And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
do that because I'd love to get a read on my house, see what
Yeah.
somebody would think." And then it's like his eyes locked eyes with mine, and he just started talking. And so he was like just telling me all this stuff. Now he would never know anything about my house. But he just said, so when we bought the house, like I said, we redid everything. We put up Victorian wallpaper. I've never wallpapered a day in my life, neither has my husband. This was all new. We watched videos on YouTube on how to do
Oh, wow.
it. So it wasn't a very smooth process, I will tell you that.
I
Um,
bet.
and so he sat there and he goes, somebody wallpapered in the house. They didn't know what they were doing. The ghost thought that was hilarious. They loved watching that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how would this guy know? And now they were laughing at us on top of that.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but yeah, I guess he was saying that,
Too funny.
well, he didn't give me specific names, but I feel like it's Minnie. But he
Mm.
didn't, give me any specific names, but he said that she really likes you and she respects you. She said she doesn't let the ghost bother you at night because she knows you've been working hard all day cleaning and she
Oh,
likes that.
wow.
And so she won't let them bother you when you're sleeping. So I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And he says she wish she could be more like me because she says some of the things I say are hilarious. Like I'm sure it's like I don't know what it is, but yeah. So I guess we're pretty tight, me and Minnie. So,
That is brilliant, that y yeah, you kind of live together, don't obviously, when you go there, you just yeah, that is brilliant.
yeah. Well, like I said, I just talk to them like they're there,
Yeah, that's right.
because that's how you should, and I investigate that way too. But like I said, being having my own place, I get a little bit more rapport with the
Yeah,
spirits and start to get to know some of their things. Like if somebody does the same thing, I'll be like, "Huh, you're so funny." I'll just kind of like blow it off, that kind of thing. So just certain little things. I'll be like, "Hey, was that you?" It's
brilliant. Yeah, I used to have a pub and there's a resident ghost there and, he used to be a former landlord. I used to chat to him all the time.
oh yeah,
I had weird things
I
happen.
like it. It's fun
Yeah.
versus if I'm just standing there and not saying anything, and then you're just not communicating. So it's like that's no fun.
Yeah, well, I was living on my own, so, I wasn't talking to myself, was I?
That's right.
Talking to Albert.
Well, they tease me at work sometimes too if I sit down and there's nobody there. Like if I'm eating lunch and they're like, "Oh, are you there with all your friends?" I go, "Oh yeah, they're right here. They're right here."
That's cool. Yeah, that's brilliant. So, is there anywhere that you'd like to investigate in the US which you haven't been to yet?
Well, we're hitting up some places, like I said, this year that were on my list. But I really would like to go to the old Pittsburgh hospital in Tennessee. I think that
Right.
would be a really, really cool place. So that's on my bucket list. It's a really far drive for us. And because we have so much equipment, we would never be able to fly with it. Plus, I worry about trying to get through TSA with REM pods and things like that. I don't know if they would buy what it's for. So I worry about that.
Oh, bless Jolene. Jolene's been on a show and she's a brilliant medium.
Oh,
Yeah, bless
wonderful.
her.
Hello.
Mm. Yeah, but you've got so many awesome locations out there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to go to Queen Mary. I want to go to Alcatraz. It looks like it's going to save the Queen Mary, doesn't it?
Yeah, they are. I heard that's kind of going down now. I used to live in California for a while, so I did actually get out to the Queen Mary.
Oh wow.
But this was before I actually really did any paranormal investigating
Okay.
on the level that I do now. Uh,
Yeah.
but I do remember like going down one of the corridors and just had this really eerie feeling. We got to one of the doors and I was just like staring at it. It was creepy. Like you just knew, I just felt like somebody was there. And I just
Okay.
didn't like being in that area. But the ship itself was just beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
that was really cool to do. We did a ship up here in Duluth. We have the William Irvin
Okay.
ship that is here, and that's supposedly haunted. So of course we went and investigated that. And boy, I felt like I ran a marathon because boy, you walk from one end of the ship to the other. There's so many
Stairs.
levels. And we got to go in places where they normally don't let the general public go. So we were
That's
like
brilliant.
in between the walls of the ship and stuff. And then you had to climb down this ladder that was very scary
Oh.
all the way down. It was pretty spooky, but it was really cool to be there. We did get some interaction with the spirit box, and they have like a real haunted section. For Halloween was kind of set up. And there was a section for that, and some of those clown things would just go off on their own occasionally. Creepy.
Clowns are always good, aren't
Yeah,
they?
I don't really like clowns anyway, but yeah, when you're on a ship.
Yeah. Just add to it when they move.
Yeah, it was kind of creepy, but that was pretty cool. Because my buddy Alex always wanted to do a ship, so being that we actually had the opportunity to do one here was really a very unique experience as well. So it would be nice to get out and do the Queen Mary with more my equipment at that time,
Yeah.
But
My dad actually used to work in the engine room.
oh,
And he
really?
was actually at sea, so I've always known about it because he always was on about it. I didn't realise there were so many engine rooms there either because there's more than one. And I'm just intrigued by it and I always have been. But when I sort of got into this sort of thing, I did kind of mention to him, was it haunted? But by then,
Yeah.
he wasn't in any state to answer that, But yeah, it's just something we grew up with as a child, and Yeah, it's like, wow, I've even got a vaccination certificate from the Queen Mary.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's just because he just saved various things and like, wow, how cool is that, Um, so Jolene says, is this something to do with the swimming pool? Did the drowning take place there?
There
In the
could have
Queen
been.
Mary?
Yeah, I don't really know all the history on it as well. So
Yeah.
I just know it was a really awesome place to go check out.
Oh God, yeah, it's huge, isn't it? So yeah, I would love to go, and I'm so glad that they're like investing in it because it was quite scary because round about it becoming scrap at one stage, weren't they? Because
Hmm.
it's just going to cost too much to sort of keep it afloat, basically.
Yeah, that's too bad. Well, hopefully, if anything, they can, get some of the stuff off there and at least create a base museum with this.
Yeah, that's right.
Would be nice
Yeah.
if they could at least do something like that. But yeah, I heard that might be happening with the urban ship too. Just I suppose, it's been sitting there for how long? I mean, the sea's
Well, yeah, that's
going to get
right.
used that eventually. So
Yeah, salt water's not going to help it, is it? It's going to cause decay, isn't it? And then, it can only last for so long. Have you been to Alcatraz?
no, but I totally would love to be there.
Yeah, I would.
I It's just super cool. Like I said, I'm just I love old history and just anything like not even from like you say from the paranormal aspect, just from the history itself.
Yeah, that's it. I don't
Everything
think I was
about it.
into history at school, but I really like going into the buildings. And with paranormal, you can just go into a building, you've got time, you haven't got people pushing past you. You can just listen and sort of feel the ambience of the area, can't you?
Oh yeah. You
Sort of take
totally
it in, and that's kind of what I like.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool. We had that when I went to the Villisca X murder house. That was the only time I got really emotional. It's
Oh,
a very small house. If people aren't familiar with it, that 7 people got killed with an axe, and most
oh
of them
God.
were children. And I, when we went there, I said, I'm not going to talk about what happened because obviously everybody does, and nobody wants to hear about that. So I remember I was just standing up in the room, and like I said, it's a really old farmhouse. It's really, really, really small. Like literally, it's where the children got killed. First, they heard their parents getting killed, and it was like just steps
Oh
away. And I
God.
just started thinking about it, and all of a sudden, I got overwhelmed, and I literally just started bawling in this room because I just became overwhelmed with emotion of
Yeah.
in the world, these kids had to listen to their parents die. And then there were still 2 more children downstairs hearing everything going on, and they were the last to get killed.
Oh
So it's
no.
just so much sadness in that house. It was
Yeah.
so, and then I gathered myself together, but it was just weird that I mean, and I felt drained really for the rest of the night after that. Um,
Yeah, that's it.
but we did have a ton of interaction. I mean, I got the most fabulous EVPs I got of children talking to each other. The class A EVPs, like one of the little boys, I want to touch your things because we were putting toys out. Um, we just had, we're like, is anybody here? And they're like, we're right here. One of them said, do you want to play? And the other one said, no way. And then Lena is another one of the girls who passed away. And we heard that she likes to mess with the guests that come. And when the older brother said, no, Lena, no. Now, I don't know what she was going to do, but she was telling her not to do it. So just getting those Class A EVPs was just amazing. And we did have the one little boy say that he loved bacon. And I said,
Okay.
well, hey, if I ever come back again, I'll bring you some bacon. Well, I think we came back about 4 or 5 years later. And
Wow.
so now they made bacon jerky. So I was like, hey, this looks like bacon. So I bought it. I brought it and I put it in this little pan in the kitchen. And then I attached it's like a REM pod, but you put an alligator clip on it. And then if anything touch it, it alarms.
Oh wow.
So I put the bacon jerky in there. I'm like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but you said you like bacon. So I brought you bacon. I promised you I'd bring. And about a half hour later, that thing started alarming. It
Oh
was
my gosh.
crazy. So
That's cool.
yeah, so that was pretty cool. So that was
Yeah.
a really interesting experience that we had there. But yeah, getting really emotional on that one was probably like the craziest thing that's happened for me.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, you don't. we do what we do, but we sometimes don't think of the reality of it, do we?
Right.
You know, we're trying to talk and we're trying to communicate, but oh, graphically, when you think about what happened, it is quite,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So, and I think that's might be why we got a lot of interaction because we never, I mean, what a horrible thing to have to talk about, especially
yeah,
as
that's
a child.
right.
I mean, it's bad enough you think when you go into a haunted location, let's say somebody who's been murdered as an adult, even, that's sad too.
Oh,
But
those
to
children.
to
Yeah,
talk to a child, you would never talk to a child in real life like that. Like, hey, who killed you? Who hit you with an axe? I mean, you wouldn't really do that
yeah.
to a young child. So that's where we came in with the attitude of we're just going to play today and we're going to find out
Oh, that's
what you like
lovely.
to play. So, like I said, we had our REM pod go off, and then they were throwing little pebbles from up top. So the old floor grates, with the metal floor grates. And so we'd be hearing this little ting, 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 and these little pebbles were coming from upstairs, hitting
Oh, wow.
stairs. So I think that was like their little way of playing with us, and they hit the run pod a couple times. But it was actually my first place we ever investigated that was, a well-known haunted location. Otherwise, we had been doing private homes and
Okay, yeah.
so that was our first one. So I was pretty terrified actually our first time.
Yeah, it does feel differently when you sort of do a location to a private home.
Yeah.
I'm going to a place which has just been advertised, and basically someone's bought a property. It's been stripped out for refurbishment, and she's letting paranormal teams get in there. So for the last like 3 weeks, people have been going in to see what they get, and it's kind of different going there. Well, now Spirit are kind of more in tune with like what we do, aren't they? But if you were the first one in asking questions, it would be different, wouldn't it? But now they're like more used to the idea.
Oh yeah.
But then if you go to like a location which has been like running for a while, then yeah, they kind of do they just stand around laughing at you sometimes? There we go
Oh,
again.
I'm sure. I'm sure they do. Like I know when I bought the Boyd house, so if you think about that particular location, that had never been investigated. And the
Yeah.
people who lived there really didn't interact. Like they would blow everything off. Like, okay, that was just weird. Like they wouldn't interact. So here I come in and now I'm trying to get you to do something. And for the longest time, nothing was happening because when I first bought it I had to like do a lot of cleanup, got to paint, got to do all kinds of stuff. um and then one day I was like really frustrated. I'm like, God, nothing has gone off here. So I was sitting in one of the kids room and I had my little rem bear there, and I was just like,
Oh,
hey, like, you guys, you got to like let me know, like people bring you toys and gifts and I'll bring you more toys and gifts, but you got to let us know you're here. I mean, this is why we're here. So we kind of had like a little talk. And then I left the room, and then about 20 minutes later, the bear went on and off for like 2 hours.
oh
So
man.
yeah, since then, so we've had so they're knowing now. So I think it was all new for them.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
you had to almost teach them, and you can imagine too, even as a spirit, like they've never seen a REM pod. You know,
Yeah,
the,
but if
we're weird looking anyway. Like why we don't dress like
yeah,
we don't,
just
and
lights
you're
and
touching
things.
this thing, like, I would think if you were like from the 1800s, you're like, no, what's it gonna do to me?
Yeah, that's it.
So, yeah, I think they had to come and learn. And now I kind of notice like when people come, sure, like the REM pods will go off, K2s, all that kind of stuff, a lot of good spirit box. But I feel like when somebody gets something new that hasn't been there yet, it goes off, because it's like they're kind of, what is this? We got to check it out. So
Yeah.
I get, and it gives me ideas too, there, because there's things that I didn't know were out there, that I've seen other groups have, and I'm like, well, I got to get me one of those. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I really want, and I've seen it, and I actually saw it again at the weekend. I'm like, I want it at £200, but I want it.
what is
Can I
that?
justify it? Huh?
What is that you want?
We've got something in the UK called the Alice box.
Okay.
So it's got like loads of words in it. Usually do it on a laptop or a tablet, something like that.
Oh,
But
okay.
this guy actually makes a little box, and it comes and the words come up on there as well.
Okay.
So it's really cool, and it was so interactive the other night.
Yeah.
Even though like it's got so many words in it, and it's just producing words, the ones coming out were relevant. And there's a couple of times I've used this device. Well, I haven't got it, but people around me have used it, and
Mm.
wow, it is great what comes out relevant wise. Because yeah, you just have to question everything, don't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I started part of paranormal investigating too is because I was afraid of death. Like if that was it, I couldn't deal with it. Like I didn't want to be in the ground and that's it. I can't
Yeah,
I can't handle that. So it's
terrible thought, isn't
so
it?
that's yeah, I kind of started that way too, like what you got to prove to myself that there's another side, and I feel like I've done that, like I've had
Yeah,
just way too many, EVPs alone. I mean, that's crazy enough. How are you going to get that, especially if they're responding to, your question or they're,
that's right.
like I said, like they say something to what you're doing at that time. So to me, I've just proven that there is an existence on the other side. So now a lot of my questions that I base are to try and find out what is going on over there. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to, and I'm sure a lot of investigators do that as well.
yeah.
We all want to
But,
know. Um,
but do you think there's something they can't tell us?
I totally believe.
Between here and there just seems to be something they can't tell us.
Yes, I agree. There's when you talk about certain things, I think for me, like when I try to talk about, heaven and hell and God and Jesus, that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
I feel like it all gets shut down. I
yeah,
did actually, we were at a rectory one time and we were using the K2 meter to talk to this priest who had committed suicide. So he was still there. So he, indicated through the lights that that's who he was. And then I started asking, questions about God and Jesus and things. And I'm like, well, um, if there's a heaven, touch the lights and nothing happened. And I go, so you're saying there's no heaven and nothing happened. And I go, are you telling me you can't tell me any of this? And it went boom to the red right away. Like, I'm
yeah,
like, so if I ask you these questions, you can't answer. Is that correct? And I'd be like, yes. So I just feel like there's certain things and certain boundaries that
yeah.
we're never gonna know. But
I
just
guess it makes it more intriguing though, doesn't it?
it does. I mean, I've had some things, like my mom when she passed away. Before she passed away, I asked her to come tell me somehow that there's another side. Um,
Oh wow.
and she chose to be in my daughter's dream a couple days later.
Oh
But
bless
she said,
you.
"Mom, it was like so vivid, and she didn't look sick, and it was so real." And again, my daughter didn't know I asked this. She said, "But Grandma said to tell you the answer is yes." Don't really know what that means, Mom, but she just wanted me
Oh
to tell
my
you.
gosh.
So I was like, that had to be the question. So there's
Oh
just
my
that,
gosh.
and then I think like my aunt, when my uncle passed away, he appeared to her after he died, and he said that there was a heaven and it was beautiful. So I'm just kind of going off of those two things, and that kind of keeps
Yeah,
going now to knowing that this once my physical body's over, it's not over, and so that I
yeah,
think makes me more at peace um, for when my time is up.
yeah. I had a weird experience. Like, there's this guy who's dying, and he got his wife to join a group I was in, so that she had friends for when he passed. So he died and went to a funeral, and it was snowing, and they couldn't get the hearse up the hill. So because it was snowing, it was rolling back. So in the end, everyone like had to push it up the hill to get it, so they could take the coffin in and everything. And the whole like service was all jokey anyway, and everyone was laughing. And they did a song at the end, "Bring Me Sunshine," which was two like comedians back in the like 70s in
Mm.
the UK, and it's like really jokey. But they played that, so you're just laughing. And next time I saw his wife, I sort of said to her, "I'm sorry, I laughed at the funeral, but it was so funny." But he would have really liked it. And somebody took the chair from under me as I sat down. So I was just about to sit down, and the chair just went flying behind me, and I sat on the floor. But yeah, so he was there, and he just showed his wife that. Because I was just saying, like, he's with you, he's around when that
Oh
happens.
yeah. They give
And
you
it's just so brilliant.
yeah,
Because he knew that I'd sort of say that as well, wouldn't he? Because I do what I do.
right.
So, yeah.
Well, that's their way of giving a sign, let you know that they're
That's right. Well,
there.
yeah,
So
me landing up with the legs in the air, yeah. But yeah, it's amazing what we do, and it's really fantastic speaking to you as well. It really is, and I just wish you all the success with your house. Has anybody got any questions that you want to ask about the house or anything? We've got a few minutes left. But yeah, it just sounds so cool. So what are your plans now then? You've got 2 locations you're going to then?
yeah, we just do what we can when we get down to the Boyd house. Otherwise, we have starting in April, we have one trip a month going through September to
Wow.
different locations. So we're doing a couple hospitals, we're doing a school, we're doing actually a train station.
Oh, nice. I'm going to one of those soon. Yeah,
Yeah, so we're pretty excited
interesting.
for today's travel. With the COVID starting to be a little bit better, we're super excited to get back out there and
Yeah, what were
get it.
your restrictions? We kind of got no rules anymore.
Yeah,
That's it now. We're
there's still
free.
they're still slowly peeling stuff back here. But it's not as prevalent. Well, I wouldn't shouldn't say as prevalent. We're not having as many cases as we used to. So they're slowly starting to open things back up. So
Yeah.
that'd be
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Our mask mandates are pretty much gone. It's optional at this point.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah.
That's better. Oh dear. Yeah, it's just so great just to get out, isn't it? And get back. Well, you get back to we've got COVID gone and we've got something else facing us. But yay. But yeah, we can get out and about, and that's it. Oh, here we go then. So Andy, so do you have a favourite spirit that you've maybe seen more than one time?
Not that I've seen. Like I said, I kind of know when they're around. So more so, I like Minnie over at the house. She tends to be there quite often. Like I said, I think she hangs around me quite often. So we have a lot of chats together.
That's cool. That's brilliant. Yeah, but I want to thank you. I'll put links to YouTube and things, and so if anybody wants to catch up with you, the contact the Boyd House on Facebook, is it?
Yeah, the Boyd House on Facebook, or also we have a new website now, which is boydhouse217.com.
Right.
That'll get
Okay.
you there too, to a little bit of information in our calendar and things like that too. So
Right. Okay. But thanks so much. It's been absolutely wonderful.
yeah, thanks for
Um,
having me.
really, thanks. Yeah, it's been great, and sort of get an insight into how you interact in your house as well. You just chat with it, which is brilliant. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jeanette, as well. But look after yourselves, everybody, and stay safe. It's a bit of world out there, but heads up, mate, and just have a great time and do what you can, eh? Get out there. But yeah, but thank you so much, Joe. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everyone's comments. And goodbye. Have a nice afternoon or evening. Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.